Hi, good morning, everyone. How's everyone? It's really exciting to be here. I'm joined by three illustrious individuals, people that you need to meet in your lifetime. This is the first of, I guess, several flagship panels that we're having. So let's begin. Maybe we can have each speaker introduce himself briefly, and then we can go straight into it.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, I'm Akio Tanaka from Headline. And Headline is a global VC firm with 4 funds, US, Europe, Asia, and Latin America. And I'm actually the founder of Asia wing of Headline. And today, I think since we are talking about East and West, I want to bring some perspectives from Japan side. And hopefully, we can actually have some geodiversity here.
Great. Konstantin?
I'm Konstantin Sidorov. I'm founder and CEO of London Technology Club. We are the largest community of tech investors in Europe with offices in London, Dubai, and now in Hong Kong. We just opened our office there. So we have a global presence. Our investors are from 30 different countries, and so we invest, we network, so that's its platform and ecosystem for investors and companies.
Hi, my name is Tom Tsao. I'm co-founder chair of Gobi Partners. Delighted to be here. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for supporting us. Gobi is an Asia-focused venture capital firm. We're in 15 offices now, about $2 billion US under management. We have a portfolio about 400 startups, and we've recently generated some good exits. VC does make money. And I agree with Akio. Very delighted to be here to talk about the elephant in the room, the new geopolitical world that we live in.
Whoa.
So thank you, David.
Great, thank you. And to close it off, my name is David Lee. I am the co-founder of WealthRyse. We are an AI invest tech company. So glad to be here. So let's get straight to it. I think the thing about this panel, I hope you will all remember, is that we want to focus on 2 things, money and controversy. So with that in mind, the elephant in the room, which is the trade discussions amongst the 2 largest economies. And Akio, what do you think and how has that affected Japan? But before we go to that, I want to just point out an interesting fact about Akio. If you look at him, he's very determined because his last investee, or one of his investee companies, he found through a customer service.
Support, yes.
Yeah, call. So just so you know, guys. Okay, go ahead.
Actually, let me talk about. So one of the investments I made in the past, whenever I have actually really good product, I actually try myself. I try to contact the customer service, and usually, nowadays they all have a chat, so you just chat up, and you actually learn a lot about the company. Especially if it's a small company, customer service person often directly reports to CEO, and it's also a good way to get introduction to CEO first. But by then, you already know like half the facts about the company. So it's an interesting hack for investors. But speaking about kind of tension, really, we are here on the edge of China, and then there's a huge tension between China and US for the last 8 years or so. And so we're sitting, of course, next to China in Japan, and we've had actually interesting share of our experiences. First of all, obviously, when the global economy slows down, it's bad for everyone. So that's not something we welcome. However, it created an interesting opportunity. And for example, Tokyo stock market actually has been a net benefactor of this tension because a lot of institutional money left Hong Kong and China, but a lot of people globally still have Asia allocations. So usually it goes to the next most liquid market. So the current tension has created a very strong boom in Tokyo Stock Exchange with a lot of international participation, particularly from the US investors. And secondly, we're also seeing actually interesting influx of people. So way back, I used to spend a lot of time in China, and like Thomas, you used to be based in Shanghai, and I have also a lot of friends in Beijing. And what I have found after COVID is a lot of people that I used to know in China are suddenly showing up in Tokyo. And initially I thought they were visiting, but then I keep seeing them a lot and then found out they actually moved to Japan. So there are certain Japanese investors and entrepreneurs coming to Japan. And this entrepreneur part is very interesting because China, I believe, still is the largest net producer of tech talents in Asia. I don't think there's no question about that. And it's also, if you go to Silicon Valley, I would say a big chunk of hotshot AI startups are actually founded by Chinese founders. Now, the trade war also created an interesting tension in terms of acquisition of talents. Basically, U.S. started saying, we don't want talents, right? and one particular result of that, H-1B visa, which is how a lot of tech talents end up in Silicon Valley, became very restrictive. So I have actually now seen reports of some U.S. Silicon Valley company who did large funding for AI company. They couldn't bring all the tech talents they wanted to find in China. So they actually set up a shop in Tokyo. And because Japan now has a very open policy, we even have entrepreneur visa, so it's actually relatively easy for skilled Chinese engineers to get a visa to go to Japan. So we're hoping that ultimately we hope this tension gets resolved because it doesn't help the world economy. But in the meantime, we try to take advantage of it.
Thank you, Akio. And moving on to Konstantin, who again, I think you have a really interesting segue here because you're a speaker in the earlier panels as well, I think. And also you've just established your new office here in Hong Kong about a month ago. And also another interesting fact about Konstantin, he is a avid mountaineer. So this means he actually does climb mountains, not dragon back in Hong Kong. These are actual mountain guys, so he's very well versed in that. And also, if we could talk about your business and how you feel that London Tech Club can actually contribute and take advantage, and obviously what you feel about this new paradigm shift.
Thank you for introduction. So, actually, my hobby to climb mountains is the only way for me to think, because I travel so much, I have so many meetings, so that I have no time actually to think about something, so that when you're climbing you have a lot of time. So anyhow, that's a London Technology Club. We are community, on the one hand side, we're a community of investors. On the other hand, we are a VC fund which provides for our investors unique opportunities from all over the world. And what we are doing, we building bridges between regions. So, and that's probably why we decided to open an office in Hong Kong, because we see a lot of opportunities in Asia, and we see how Asia now more and more attractive for our European or American investors. But at the same time, we see that still the European market, UK market, US market, they are also very, very attractive for the Asian investors. So actually our task and the purpose that we build bridge between Asia and Europe, Asia and the US. And with our office in the Middle East, we're also doing these bridges between the Middle East because it's another very interesting and very dynamic region with all of the money which accumulated wealth was now building in Saudi, in Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar. So it's just diversity, and I'm really excited by current world's diversity.
Can I just add one thing? I used to live in Hong Kong. I have a soft spot for Hong Kong. And I'm so glad to see someone's actually moving to Hong Kong when a lot of people have left. And I hope you can buck the trend here.
Now it's due to tax reasons, so many people leaving London. So unfortunately, we have
that's Hong Kong's game.
opposite trend.
So like I said, it is going to be about money a little bit, right? So I guess moving to you, Thomas, again, a personal hero and obviously a great ambassador for VC with the current panel here. What can I say? $2 billion of investments, 200 different investment, 40 successful and counting exits. You can't talk about Gobi without talking about Thomas, but I'll add one more thing. He is, I think, the first person that actually provided a soap opera for a subway in Shanghai. I mean, this is how I remember him. And if you could just maybe talk about that a little bit before you...
Okay, so I can humble brag here. Is that right,
Please,
David? Okay,
please,
I have your
please.
permission. Okay. So you're looking at the father of the micro drama in China. You don't believe that, right? No, but it's true. So back in 2007, when we were investors in a company called DMG, we created the first micro drama, 2-minute long, that was broadcast on the Chinese subway systems. Again, this was before mobile phones. So again, I think from those stories were each 2 minutes, the average length of a subway ride between stops. And then each episode, we showed one episode a day, all the episodes added together to show one complete story. You can look that up. That was done in 2007.
Did it have sound?
It did. It had sound. And fun fact, Huang Xiaoming, he was actually the star. And it was sponsored by Starbucks. We won an award. We actually won an award in Shanghai as well, because they were all stories based on subways. So the story was about basically our heroine was just riding the Shanghai subways, and she would keep a blog. It's called 晴天日记. You guys can look it up. For the younger generation. Okay.
Did you have a cameo appearance?
No, I was not. The director said absolutely not. No.
But Thomas, of course, adding to that, I think if you could maybe let us know in terms of your investment experience and obviously what's going on with Trump and obviously these things going on in terms of Liberation Day and how it's affected Asia.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I think everybody here's a friend. I think, first of all, I would say I'm an American, born in the U.S. I'm an ABC, probably the most disliked type of people right now. American-born Chinese. I would say, first of all, is you got to be careful for what you wish for. And in America right now, when they announced Liberation Day, they actually liberated the thinking of the entire world. So what do I mean by that? You know, in the U.S. right now, there's a misperception that somehow the rest of the world took advantage of the U.S., right? The U.S. outsourced manufacturing to the rest of the world. But they also, and remember, they outsourced manufacturing to the rest of the world. They also outsourced pollution to the rest of the world. How many of you have seen how blue jeans are made? Anybody in the textile business? Okay, you know, that dye just gets dumped into water, okay?
Really?
Yeah. So, in a way, the U.S. outsourced manufacturing to the rest of the world, and they want it back. I think that's fair. But what was the other side of that bargain? The rest of the world outsourced innovation and creativity to the U.S. And you know what? The rest of the world wants it back. At Gobi, we've always believed that there should be distributed innovation. We always believe that Silicon Valley is a great thing. Silicon Valley is a great thing. There should be many Silicon Valleys. Every country needs their own Silicon Valley. And that's what we've been building with the Gobi network. So I think that's very important. And I'll just end and we can continue the discussion. So I'm a big believer in MAGA and what President Trump is doing, because he single-handedly is making Asia great again, okay? I mean, that's what he's doing. He's single-handedly accelerating, right, better cooperation and connectivity between Asia. So I think for everybody in the audience, think about the opportunities that that's going to create.
So there you have it. So I've fulfilled my promise. We talked about money, and now we're going to controversy. So and we still have 20 minutes left, guys. So stick around. They're maybe getting more exciting. But going back to you, Akio, you've talked about Japan, how this environment has affected maybe investing and startups. But how can you see your network? I mean, I think you have the largest networking exposition in Japan, IBS, with I think 10,000 participants. How do you think those types of things can help ameliorate or to address these concerns or even advance them and make them more evolutionary?
So actually, Japan has its own shortcomings in Asia, right? I mean, we want to work with other Asian countries, but if you look at Japan, it's probably the most closed ecosystem. First of all, people don't really speak English. I think Tokyo probably has the lowest English language proficiency among all the major Asian cities. And even our tech ecosystem, I remember like when we started out, like, about 15 years ago, I would say we had like less than 2% non-Japanese participants. Basically, it's all Japanese. And I think we had probably even less than 2% female participation. Basically, it's all Japanese men. That was our ecosystem. Pretty bad, right? But we realized, well, we cannot be closed off. We do have to actually be better integrated with the rest of Asia. So actually, if you go to a majority of typical tech conferences in Japan, unfortunately, it's still like that. But we started making a conscious effort about 5 years ago. And our first target was we wanted to make sure at least like we have 20% female participation in a conference. And we were able to achieve that about 4 years ago. And now we also doing the similar target on internationalization. And last year, we also got similar percentage. So obviously, we're nowhere like, big conferences you go to, say, places like Singapore and Bangkok, where it's way more international. But we're slightly more open than we were before. And I think the current trend, I think one thing that I think a lot of Asian, our neighbors figured out is that America is very far and very expensive, and sometimes it's tricky to get visa. So I found that a large percentage of Asian, especially middle-class people, are now coming to Japan for the holidays, either for shopping or for skiing in wintertime. So, and some of them decided, hey, actually, it's cheaper than Singapore or Hong Kong. So we're starting to see a beginning of not the traditional like farm worker, factory worker type immigrants, but middle class immigrants to Japan. I think it's a big opportunity for us. And since we have an operation in Europe, I also remember Berlin. Berlin 20 years ago was not a tech mecca in Europe. There's no startups really there. But I think in the last 15 years, Berlin became an interesting spot along with London and Paris to be a big startup center. It's like a distributed startup ecosystem. But one of the things I remember is that Berlin became that because it was culturally it was like more interesting cities, right? London's interesting, but Berlin is also very interesting. And but more importantly, it was the cheapest big city in Europe to live in. So that attracted a lot of young talents. And that coinciding with VC activities made into a big innovation center. And we are hoping that maybe Tokyo has the opportunity now because it's way cheaper than Singapore, right? And Hong Kong is still expensive more compared to Tokyo. So we welcome this kind of influx of talents and money into Japan.
Thank you so much, Akio. And I guess going to you, Konstantin, I guess it's a bit different since you're coming into Asia. We're all sort of based out of Asia. And so I know that your knowledge base is very deep in terms of European, Asian investing with themes and interests. And I'm sort of wondering how you feel that you can apply, or you plan to apply it with your new office in Hong Kong, and obviously with these undercurrents of the political, geo-economic things that are going on. What do you think are the next steps, and how do you see it?
First, I'd like to a bit add to what Akio said because I really like it because we are for building ecosystem and in Silicon Valley, what mentioned by Thomas, you can't build Silicon Valley just in the middle of desert. It's in a combination on many factors, and it's impossible to do it in one day. So it's first of all, it's definitely education. So that's why probably London have such a great ecosystem. Oxford, so that's Cambridge, and money. And you also mentioned cost of living, and probably now for London tech ecosystem, now cost of living is the biggest issues. So that's why people and young entrepreneurs trying to leave to Lisbon, maybe Berlin. So that takes time. So it's not that Silicon Valley is good, Austin is bad. Now, we see in the US many startups moving from California to Texas. Yes, taxation, cost of living, etc. Anyhow, so answering your question, that we following as a investor, as a community, we have very easy strategy. We are following our investors and we following entrepreneurs. So we opened an office in Dubai 3 years ago just because we found that many of our investors moving from London to Dubai. And we see that's how local governments spend a lot of money for building tech ecosystem, tech infrastructure. And we decided, wow, this is the place. This is so many interesting companies, so many startups, so many things doing in terms of discussing, and the governments are really open. We didn't discuss it here, but it's also very important for building infrastructure, involvement and desire of government to support this infrastructure, and it's impossible to do it without it. And now, why Hong Kong? That's we see that we have a lot of investors here. We see that dynamic. We are following the dynamic. You can't build something in a desert. You can't build something without movement, without energy. And energy is exactly what we see now in the region. That's why we're here.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And again, that's completely understandable, and I think that's really inspiring. So, getting back to you, Thomas. Part two of your view of how things have changed, and you were talking about, maybe we could illustrate more about how the Gobi ecosystem is also cooperating with many different other institutions and investment institutions or associations in Asia to make it much more, I guess, multi-spoke, shall we say, and encourage innovation in Asia.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, David. I think many of you know, I don't know if you know the Gobi story, but I think, we started off in Shanghai in '02, so we've been around 23 years now. And for many of you who follow the Chinese tech ecosystem, how it developed, at the time, most Chinese VCs and the Silicon Valley VCs, you think back 15 years ago, it was like a romance, China and the US. We loved each other, right? And everybody was building bridges east to west. You would find more Silicon Valley venture capitalists in Shanghai at the Four Seasons. Harry's there, he remembers those days. In Beijing, everybody, you find more Silicon Valley guys in China, like 15 years ago. That United Airlines flight from San Francisco to Shanghai or Beijing was always sold out, right? So everybody was building bridges east to west. And it was a great idea. Gobi at the time, we said, hey, that's a great idea, but we saw another opportunity, which was to go Northeast Asia to Southeast Asia. Again, it sounds so obvious now, but you got to think back, 2010, not so obvious. Everybody was like, what the heck? And we had to come up with a name for that. We called it Crouching Panda Hidden Tapir. It never caught on. There's actually now a better term. And it's a Korean song, APT, APT. ASEAN plus 3. ASEAN plus China, Japan, Korea. Okay? That's essentially what's going on. So this corridor between Northeast Asia and Southeast Asia is happening. And I think to Akio's point, it's amazing to me, and again, this is why I just don't understand sometimes what the US is thinking, because the US had a great model. It was a hub and spoke model. Think about it. More people in Asia knew about the US than like Japanese people knew about China, right? Everybody from Japan's been to the US. Back then, a lot of people in Japan had not gone to China, and it was right in the backyard. A lot of people in Northeast Asia have never been to Southeast Asia. They've all been to the US. That's changing now, right? Because what the US is doing is they're moving from a hub and spoke model, which was benefiting the US, going to a multi-polar...
Yeah, we use our trade surplus to always buy US debt.
Right, exactly. And it's becoming a multipolar distributed where we're meeting here in Macau. In the old days, we'd probably all be meeting in Silicon Valley at a conference, right? Now we're doing it in Macau. We can meet in Kyoto, and I hope I get invited to that, right? But, I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's now point-to-point linkages, and it's happening. So, again, I say be careful what you wish for. This is what's going on. And now back to Akio's point, Konstantin's point about education. How many of you guys saw the news this morning? You know what news I'm talking about? Okay.
Harvard News?
Yeah. David, this concerns all of us.
Yes, we're both from Harvard. I only went to the law school, but he actually went to undergrad, so.
President Trump has said no more foreign students can go to Harvard or something like that. That is crazy. I mean, so where are they going to all go? This is going to create tremendous opportunities for other cities. They're going to go to Dubai. They're going to go to Tokyo. I think a lot of them are going to come to Hong Kong. And oh, by the way, we just announced we're doing a strategic fund to focus on the Hong Kong University tech ecosystem. So I think this is all coming together, and it's quite, I just think, yes, the old model has been broken, but something new is going to come out of it, and it's going to create a lot of opportunities.
That's great. Thanks so much, Thomas. I guess we have 8 minutes left, so I want to just wrap up, and it's been way too short, but I think as the last question to each of you, sort of where you see this going in the next 5 years. 5 years later, how do you think with this sea change going on, what would be things that you would like to talk about or recognize or think it's a good idea or something that we should pay attention to? Akio?
So I would say, I think this is also part of our investment theme, and very actually similar thinking to Thomas here. We think that in 5 years, obviously, we hope that we will still continue to do great business with the US, but in the meantime, I think it's a good opportunity for us to strengthen intra-Asia ties. And we've been actually investing in Southeast Asian companies that want to enter Japan market. And Japan is actually, still, China is of course the biggest market in Asia, but Japan is probably the biggest open market in Asia that has very few, at least regulatory barriers for entry, whether it's a consumer company or fintech company. And also one secret that I want to share with you, that Japan is probably the largest market where whether a startup or as a startup investor, you see the least amount of competition for your company. I don't want to say winning in Japan is easy, but it's easier because we don't, although we have a large economy, and the number of startups are growing, but it's nowhere near the level that you see in places like China, Silicon Valley, or even in Singapore. So Japan is actually a great place to actually build companies and also generate revenues for your portfolio companies who's interested in expansion. So that's something we want to see more. And obviously, Thomas, we want help in helping Japanese companies get to your market.
Thank you.
And also Europe.
Thank you. Konstantin?
I see that the biggest issue in VC world, and it's not just Asia or the US, is the liquidity. and building liquidity for our investors. It's very, very important because now companies are staying much longer in the market. The IPO market is dry out. The amount of M&As decline. So building liquidity for investors, for our investors in our fund, for Thomas, for Kai, I think it's a major target for us to support VC infrastructure. That's why now, for example, we are building secondary funds to build liquidity in illiquid market. And I believe that this theme is very, very important for the next 5 years. So that's why we're now moving from primary investments, which is very important to support overall infrastructure, to secondary market to support liquidity, because one market can't exist without another one, and that's what I see very important for overall industry, and I see it's for the next decade it will be booming market.
Thank you, Konstantin. Thomas, if you could maybe let us know along these themes about the future and what you see happening in the next 5 years to put on to look in your crystal ball.
I think for Asia in general, first of all, I totally agree with Konstantin. I think you need different sources of capital. The ecosystem at all levels, right, needs to strengthen, mature, and have more resiliency. And that means the more players there are, the better. I think there will be a very important, as Asia develops out its venture ecosystem, is this real understanding, I think, of patient capital, right? Venture, for some reason, I think social media, whatever, everybody's like venture out fast, in and out. No, right? Konstantin, it takes time. I mean, these are 10-year journeys, and I think the importance of patient long-term capital is now necessary more than ever. And again, a lot of investors may have different risk profiles and time frames. That's why you need different ecosystem players. The primary guys, the real strategic long-term patient capital, but then also more secondary players, so you can generate the liquidity, and I think that would be good for the entire resiliency of the tech ecosystem in Asia. And Akio, I'd love that. We're definitely open, so please introduce more companies from Japan. We'd love to see if we can work with them.
Great. So I think we're going towards the end. I don't want to go over, but these are the 3 gentlemen, and again, I think that as a flagship panel, this has really been interesting. I want to thank Akio, Konstantin, and Thomas for their time in doing this. Obviously, for us, I think that we need to recognize and heed their wisdom to be able to understand, obviously look forward, and there are many people here that are in the VC ecosystem that will take this advice. I encourage everyone to come up to the stage afterwards for questions. They're going to be gone very soon, so you want to take advantage. And again, may the road rise to reach to meet every one of you in your future endeavors. I don't know if there's any last words that anyone would like to say. Okay, we're good.
So I have.
Great. Konstantin, thank you, sir.
We still have 2 minutes. No, I think that we are here from Malaysia, from London, from Japan, just to show how the diversity in this world, the diversity of ecosystem, and we are here for building this ecosystem, and here is an investors forum, so that we are with you, our investors. We're happy to support you. We're happy to make you money. So we are happy to develop your business and help all of this ecosystem to exist in different systems and all in different countries. And that's what 4 of us are doing. And so thank you for supporting us, for supporting VC industry.
Anything else, Akio or Thomas? Oh, you good? Okay, great. Thank you so much, everyone. And again, hope you have a great day. All right. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
What an amazing discussion. Thank you to our panelists. Please be seated. Bye.